Distinguished leaders, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to Hongqiao Economic Forum Press Conference on World Openness Report 2023 and International Symposium on World Opening Up M1 from China Media Group, CGTN. I want to express sincere welcome to all our guests participating in today's forum. Thank you. So at the beginning of the session, please allow me to introduce to you our guests. Joining us today, they are Vice President of CAS, Mr. Wang Changling, welcome. And the Vice Chairman of the Boao Forum for Asia, Mr. Zhou Xiaochuan. And former Prime Minister of France, Jean Raffarin. And former Minister of MOFCOM, Mr. Chen Deming. And the UN Under-Secretary General for Economics and Social Affairs, Mr. Li Junhua. And the Vice President of ISO, Director General of UNE, Javier Garcia. African Union Commissioner for Economic Development, Albert Muchanga. Welcome. And the Vice President of the Research Center for Hongqiao International Economic Forum, Yu Zirong. And the academician of CAS, Zhang Yuyan. President of Research Center for Hongqiao International Economic Forums, Gu Xueming. And CIIE founder, Chairman and CEO, Robin Zeng. Director of Business Management, BOC, Zhao Rong. President Human Health International, Merck, actually Mr. Joseph Romanelli joining us today. And we also have President of China North Asia and Oceania of Danone, Bruno Cheval. And also the Group Chief Executive of HSBC Holdings, Noah Quinn. Welcome. And also, we have the Nobel laureate in Economic Science 2010, Mr. Christopher Pissarais. Welcome. And Executive Deputy Director of the Academic Committee of China Institute for Innovation and Development Strategy, Mr. Huang Qifan. And the VP of Development Research Center of the State Council, Long Guoqiang. And also, Zhang Xiaojun, President of China Association of Industry Economists, and we also have Professor Zheng Yongnian joining us from the Chinese University of Hong Kong, Shenzhen. Welcome. And next, I will give the floor to Mr. Wang Changling, the VP of CAS, to moderate the next session. Welcome. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good afternoon. So we gather together in Hongqiao once again as scheduled, and today we gather together for the press conference on World Openness Report 2023 and the International Symposium on World Opening Up. Now we're going to all gather together witness the release of World Openness Report and talk about the current situation and prospects of World Opening Up. And this symposium is co-hosted by Institute of Work Economics and Politics, CAS, Research Center for Hongqiao International Economic Forum, and co-organized by CIIE Bureau, as well as National Institute for Global Strategy of CAS. On behalf of CAS, I would like to extend a warm welcome and also sincere gratitude to the organizers of the session and all friends participating either online or offline today. Thank you. And today, we're actually going to have 4 different sessions. First, we're going to have an opening addresses, and second, the release of World Openness Report, and third, speeches by business leaders, and last but not least, a panel discussion on the current status and future of World Opening Up. And we're going to have the opening remarks session. And now please join me to welcome Mr. Zhou Xiaochuan, Vice Chairman of Boao Forum for Asia, and China's Chief Representative to Boao Forum, to deliver a speech via video. Thank you. Welcome. distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure for me to attend the Hongqiao Economic Forum and also witness the release of World Openness Report 2023. In his congratulatory letter to the CIIE, President Xi Jinping once again declared China's confidence and determination to further open up, injecting strong impetus for promoting common opening up in the world. I actually myself have always been very concerned about opening up and did a lot of research and thinking on open economy 30 years ago. And next, I would like to share with you some of my observations and thoughts. First, opening up is a key move in China's development, and opening up has been able to promote reform and development, and it's an important, I would say, tool for China's continuous new achievements in modernization. And many of our major reforms in the 80s were driven by opening up. And this year marks the 45th anniversary of our opening up. And we have seen, we have the pilot testing of different projects, and this has been an important experience for us over the past 4.5 decades. And we have insisted on opening countries' doors for all sorts of development and have been a trailblazing process, set up 22 pilot free trade zones in different regions, and also those areas have played an important role model in this regard. And I would say, building on those important free trade zones, we have built up all sorts of free trade liberal harbors and ports, etc., with a focus on the liberalization and facilitation of trade and investment, so that the two processes can be mutually beneficial and complementary. And also this year marks the 10th anniversary of our pilot free trade zone. Over the past decade, those PFTs have taken the lead in achieving a series of breakthroughs and leading innovations. For instance, in finance, we have actively supported the PFTs in expanding opening up of financial sectors to the outside world, promoting the free flow of capital, and also to realizing the lowering the cost of enterprises financing. And also in this pilot free trade zone, we have actively carried out financial services innovations, such as to settle foreign exchange capital funds of foreign-funded enterprises to serve the real economy. There have been many active measures or initiatives, vividly proving that opening up is a distinctive feature of China's modernization, and we will only open wider to the outside world. Second, with a view to the present, opening up is the only way to actually for us to encounter difficulties and encounter challenges. Now we face unprecedented changes, especially after the COVID-19, and we see all sorts of geopolitical conflicts and high inflation, debt, etc., all sorts of energy and food crisis. And there have been a lot of impacts on global opening up, profoundly altering the world's pattern of opening up. So for instance, we see that this entire chain have been accelerating in terms of the reshaping of the global industrial supply chain. And now we focus more on security and resilience. We are not putting eggs in one basket. Instead, we're focusing on localization, regionalization, diversification. And the entire landscape is changing as well. And for emerging and developing economies, they seek to open up. And then there has been an urgent need for them to open up. According to World Openness Report, the openness index of the BRICS countries have significantly higher more than that of the G7 countries, with some developed countries have experienced a downturn or decline in this regard. But we still face a lot of challenges, and also the authority and effectiveness of our multilateral trading system have greatly suffered. And you can see that there are a lot of I would say tensions, and many developed countries or developing countries that actually face all sorts of different challenges. And now we have what we call behind the border rules. And I believe that only by opening up can we prosper. If we close our door, and the world economy will suffer. Promoting the world economy towards recovery and development has become a global focus and a top priority. Third, If we look into the future, opening up, I believe, is an inevitable requirement for grasping the trend of the times. At present, we see, for instance, AI, clean energy, space exploration, and bioengineering, and other areas. They are becoming cutting-edge fields in our current society, profoundly affecting economic production, and also have a huge, I would say, opportunity, creating huge opportunities for opening up. For example, we have a new engine of a digital economy, and you can see that digital economy, with its actually in its nature, is focusing on opening up, and I believe that will inject new momentum into global opening up. And the study has shown that the 47 major economies reached what we call 38.1 trillion RMB in value added in 2021, a 26.2% increase from 2018. And also, we have seen a new track emerging, that is green transformation and low carbon development, which is a necessary path for our development and has become the foundation of consensus in our global open development. And the word actually, our openness report mentioned that our grain import and export volume reached 8.8 trillion RMB in 2022, accounting for 18.2% of the world's total volume, and there's much room for growth. And also, we have seen that there have been a lot of requirements from for instance, the Paris Agreement in terms of control temperature rise, and we need to further actually catch up in terms of our green and low carbon transformation. And we need to have opening up and global collaboration in this regard. And also to make sure that we make the pie bigger, and also we can have this sharing mechanism. So that is the way forward. Ladies and gentlemen, the World Openness Report has been published for 3 consecutive years, and the pioneering achievement is a window for observing the world's openness and a tool for promoting the world's common openness. The report not only innovatively launched the World Openness Index, but also put forward innovative theories such as consensus openness, U-shaped evolution of openness, and openness capacity, filling the research gaps in the academic field. It also is a way for us to put forward ideas from combining theories with practices. Today, we're going to hear a lot from our foreign entrepreneurs and also businessmen, so that I believe we will all benefit from their sharing. In the face of uncertainties and unpredictable factors, our team actually have adhered to the spirit of science, openness, innovation, and historical perspective, showing us the latest achievements of openness theory research, presenting the advancement in this regard, contributing Chinese wisdom to the promotion of construction of an open world economy. It's of great significance both theoretically and practically. Last but not least, I wish our report will become better, and I wish our symposium great success. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Zhou, for your opening remarks. And I will next give the floor to Jean-Pierre Raffarin, Chairman of the Foundation Perspective and Innovation, former Prime Minister, France.
Merci de m'avoir invité à ce 6e Forum mondial de Hongqiao, à l'occasion notamment de la grande foire des importations de Shanghai. Hélas, je m'exprime par vidéo, je ne peux pas être avec vous parce que je suis retenu par une réunion importante à Paris aujourd'hui. Mais je serai prochainement à Shanghai à l'occasion de ce grand événement de la coopération commerciale mondiale, internationale. Ces réunions et ces échanges sont très importants.
Those activities are very important, especially in difficult times. We need to talk to each other. So different continents we are having wars in those places. So today we feel that the world situation is actually very cruel, and tragedies are everywhere. We can see it. So we have to be aware that we need to constantly use dialogue to walk onto the path of peace and security. So for everyone to express our ideas, this is very important because the world economy is faced with many challenges. So one challenge is quite critical. That is called as the planet politics. It's becoming a political goal. So the president of France and the Chinese leaders will take actions together. So we will use this planning strategy as our core. So last year, our president visited China. The two leaders have had discussions surrounding this topic. So President Xi Jinping on the third Belt and Road Forum, and he touched upon this topic. So I personally was a representative, and together I participated in the conference together with President Macron. So we know that the Belt and Road Initiative is a path to development. It is a shared priority for us. So the third Belt and Road Summit stressed that again. So that is quite important. In addition to that, we have other very important conferences. So I especially remembered that last year, the Chinese Premier Li Qiang visited Paris. So he was there to understand how the developed economies can support the developing economies. So in this divided world we're in today, so all those are visions of balancing. We need dialogue, collaboration, etc. We need collaboration instead of competition, instead of confrontation. So those are what make us to get together in this division we are facing today. We are capable of thinking, we are capable of seeking a path to peace. So I really want to tell you that that's the message I want to convey today. So because of that, we need to collaborate together with the businesses. We know that there's a very important activity in Shanghai. One of the biggest companies in France will participate and exhibit their businesses in China. So all those efforts are necessary. So as a matter of fact, our life depends on those businesses. So that's what we must do. We need to make our people see that we have leadership, we have the actions from the public society, etc. Each and everyone are putting efforts to support peace. So the globalization of the economy is a trend. It is going to provide a very important driver. This is a conclusion recognized by many people already. So now this report. Thank you for your speech. And then we have Mr. Chen Deming, the former Minister of Commerce of China, to give us a speech. So, thank you, Mr. Wang. Thank everyone, ladies and gentlemen. So it is a great pleasure to finally be able to meet you face to face, to together witness the launch of the World Openness Report 2023. So with this opportunity, we can together talk about some very important topics about world opening up. I'd like to talk about three things. So first, the globalization of the economy. We're seeing this trend of retrograding, but still, progress is a bigger trend. In this era of big change, the old forces of globalization has begun to decay and new forces began to emerge. The obstacles and the drivers are having a clash. So this is exactly the beginning of re-globalization, because globalization is not going to end. At this point of time, it is becoming shorter, there are more chains, and in terms of its idea, the bottom logic is neoliberalism, and it's being shaped. In general, The international companies are influenced by geopolitics and the ideologies. So according to the United Nations, there was a report of World Investment Report 2023. In 2022, foreign direct investment decreased by 12%, and for major developed countries, about 77%. In 2023, international businesses and transporter investment is still faced with multiple challenges. And from the perspective of governance, we know that we have World Trade Organization. So under the foundation of the promises of the World Trade Organization, so many countries have improved their standard and regulations and deepened economic collaboration under the framework. But now we can see more confrontational and exclusive values and ideas began to emerge. Then they are reshaping our trade and economic relations. So currently, globalization is getting to a plateau, and the risks of fragmentation is high. So as long as trade still exists and mutually beneficial, as long as capital is still chasing benefits around the globe, then globalization is not going to come to a halt. So objectively speaking, scientific change is not gaining momentum, especially digital economy and other technologies. They're serving globalization and accelerating. The spark of innovation is still high. So according to McKinsey, by 2025, data flow will contribute to $11 trillion to the world economy. And according to the status of OECD, data flow for the average growth contribute about 10%. And subjectively speaking, countries represented by China are still committed to economic globalization, and we're committed to opening up. So as President Xi Jinping put it, he stressed again that, secondly, the landscape of the world is becoming more divided, but peace is still the mainstream. Our world is experiencing a big change, a big division and restructuring. So after the pandemic, the Ukraine crisis, the wars, and also the competition between China and the United States. So as a very important factor, those are influencing the global landscape. And economic recovery and division, inflations, food crisis, energy security, those problems are intertwined, which deepened the imbalance of the global economy. And some countries have committed to decoupling and built up walls, and those efforts have intensified the struggle. The consensus has been weakened, and some deep issues, including the south and north, between labor and capital, and etc., those problems are aggregating, and the demand of countries are becoming different. We need to see that the division we are looking at today is not the same as a parallel system we saw before. Historically speaking, and so this kind of standing alone is against the rules of trade development, and it will only hurt the benefits of countries. So eventually, it is going to be abandoned by history. According to our statistics, the decrease of technology will decrease our economy by about 5%. So nowadays, we can see that the world economy depend on each other. In 2022, about 60% of the revenue of Qualcomm still come from the Chinese market. And for Intel, that percentage is about 27%. It fully illustrates that decoupling and sanctions and efforts to hurt other countries will not go far. Opening up, collaboration, and win-win collaboration will go far. And thirdly, our world economic growth has entered a phase of low speed, but China has always been committed to opening up. So recently, major international organizations have again lowered their forecast for economic growth for the globe. According to IMF, in October, their latest report shows that this year and next year, the world economic growth will be continued to slow. In 2023, it is expected to be at 3%, and 2024 about 2.9%, which is far lower than the forecast for 2020 and 2019, which was at 3.8%. And at the same time, in IMF, the World Bank, have increased their expectations for the Chinese economic growth will be about 5.1% and 5% respectively, which is going to be one-third contribution to a world economic growth. And the GDP of the first 3 quarters of China has increased by 5.2% compared with last year, which has been a front runner among all the major economies, and the fundamentals will not be changed. The Chinese government has continuously been taking policies and advancing high-level opening up, and those effects are being shown gradually. In the first half of the year, our export is accounting 14.2% compared with the same period last year, which is about 0.4% increase. And the new foreign businesses in China increased by 35.7%, and high-tech manufacturing investment increased by 8.8%, and in the future there's still a great potential for growth, providing a very big space for businesses. So this high-quality development advanced by high-level opening up. So we are advancing the world opening up with our own opening up, injecting momentum to the world, which is filled with uncertainty. But of course, our opening up still has its problems and the places that needs to be improved. We hope that we can get your opinions. So dear guests, the World Openness Report, it is a very important window for us to observe the world and China. So it indicated the value of China, which is to benefit others and also advance oneself. So it also inspired us that opening up, it is about responsibility, governance, and also security. When faced with the challenges, no country can stand alone. So we need to negotiate and discuss to build more bridges, to build less walls, so as to pour the positive energy for opening up. So 3 years since the launch of the World Openness Report, it's authoritative and economic, it's becoming stronger, and more are received and recognized by readers. I sincerely hope that more scholars and can join the research of this report and jointly work together to discuss the good policies for global governance. We hope that we can hear more voices advocating opening up. So at last, I'd like to wish today's launch and the symposium a complete success. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Chen Deming. So next we will give the floor to Mr. Li Junhua, UN Undersecretary General for Economic and Social Affairs.
Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to join you at the launch of the 2023 World Openness Report. This report comes at the time when our world is facing unprecedented challenges. At the midpoint of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the progress towards the many SDGs has slowed or gone backwards. The pandemic impacts, growing conflict, the unfolding climate emergency, and the increasing geopolitical tensions have all taken a toll on the human well-being, especially the poor and the vulnerable. And looking forward, the prospect for economic growth looked difficult and uncertain in many countries. Trade has been an engine of the growth over the last decades, helping diversify the economies, transfer the know-how, create jobs, reduce poverty, improve the living standards, and empower women. But new trade restrictions nearly tripled between 2019 and 2022. Excessively inward-looking policies may be tempting in the short term, but end up making it harder to produce a better world for all. The 2023 World Openness Report provides us a comprehensive assessment of the state of the global openness in trade, finance, infrastructure, climate, and policies. The report underscores the need for rebuilding global solidarity and creating new momentum for international trade, sustainable development, and climate action. I would like to take this opportunity to highlight 3 key areas to rejuvenate multilateralism and expand openness. First, we need to reaffirm commitment to strengthening a rule-based, non-discriminatory, open, fair, inclusive, equitable, sustainable, and transparent multilateral trading system. Global trade governance must be strengthened to better address the challenges posed by the new economic realities, and to better deliver on trade negotiations, improve the transparency, and effective dispute resolution. Second, we need to reform the international financial architecture to accelerate the investments in the SDGs. The United Nations Secretary General has put forward his SDG stimulus plan, outlining the transformations needed for multilateral development banks, other financial institutions, and governments. The SDG Summit held last September in UN headquarters endorsed the proposal in principle, including to mobilize at least $500 billion per year in affordable long-term financing for sustainable development and climate action. Third, countries must collaborate to address the reality of the climate change in the spirit of the solidarity. Developing countries must be supported in developing their green, equitable, and resilient growth paths. Developed countries must make good on their financial commitments, including the $100 billion promise for meaningful climate change mitigation actions. Dear colleagues, global challenges require global solutions. To achieve sustainable development, combat climate change, and promote peace and stability, international cooperation is a must. I congratulate you on this important event and look forward to hearing of the outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Li. And I will next give the floor to Javier Garcia, VP of ISO. Welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Javier Garcia. I'm the Vice President, Technical Management of ISO, the International Organization for Standardization, and Director General of UNE, which is the Spanish member of ISO, the Spanish Association for Standardization. As we mark the launch of the World Openness Report 2023, I want to begin by touching on the 3 dimensions of the Openness Index: social, economic, and cultural openness. These themes, I believe, are linked by a common thread: cooperation. Cooperation lies at the heart of what we do at ISO. We have always taken a collaborative approach to developing and drafting standards, and take pride in our standardization system, which leverages the collective knowledge and expertise of stakeholders and experts from around the world in response to market needs. International standards developed by ISO serve as a universal language that brings together countries, communities, and industries in a shared quest for a more prosperous and socially harmonious future. International standards play a significant role in shaping and influencing public policy across various domains, including international trade. They provide the foundation from which policymakers can develop effective trade regulations that not only stimulate economic growth, but also safeguard citizens, businesses, and the planet. Indeed, international standards are recognized as an important policy tool by the World Trade Organization. The Technical Barriers to Trade Agreement, TBT, encourages its members to use international standards, such as those developed by ISO, as a basis for shaping their own national standards and regulations. The advantages of using international standards as the foundation of trade and policy are countless. First and foremost, they provide clarity by defining and quantifying terms or concepts in the marketplace. Furthermore, they offer the flexibility to accommodate diverse national contexts and adapt to the unique cultural and economic needs of individual countries. And by establishing the regulatory framework for fair competition, international standards level the playing field for businesses and economies worldwide. So how can we harness the full potential of standards to advance public policy's objectives? The answer lies in ISO's Standards and Public Policy Toolkit, which provides policymakers with practical guidance on how to incorporate ISO standards in their decision-making processes. It establishes a framework for international standards to support policymakers and regulators in preparing, adopting, and applying in policy, and in particular, technical regulations. Standards are a catalyst for innovation, driving economic growth. When we embrace standards, we establish a shared foundation that nurtures the development of new technologies, products, and processes. This, in turn, enables businesses to stay competitive in today's rapidly changing global marketplace. Of course, with technological advances come safety and privacy concerns. Here again, ISO is well equipped to tackle these challenges. For example, when it comes to IT security, cybersecurity, and privacy protection, the ISO 27000 suite of standards on information security management offers consumers and businesses the reassurance they need. And standards related to this year's hot topic, artificial intelligence, are instrumental in ensuring that the technology is developed responsibly, guarding against misuse and ultimately boosting public confidence. This remarkable work owes much to the dedication of the experts of ISO Joint Subcommittee on Artificial Intelligence. As we witness technological progress and the expansion of global trade, it's imperative that we align these developments with the green energy transition. Once more, ISO is leading the way. We have made great strides in advancing the climate and sustainability cause. with our standards on energy efficiency and renewable energy sources. And more recently, we've introduced a new technical specification that supports the entire hydrogen life cycle. Thanks to ISO, we have the tools to drive meaningful change in the energy sector. Let me finish now with a short conclusion. Standards are not just technical documents. They are solutions to global challenges, essential tools for achieving a wide range of policy objectives, whether that's fostering economic growth, navigating the green energy transition, or ensuring the safety and well-being of our citizens. Using international standards in regulation and legislation serves to promote international cooperation. In doing so, it increases economic, social, and cultural openness, bringing about confidence, prosperity, and opportunities for all. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Javier Garcia. I will next give the floor to Mr. Albert Muchanga, AU Commissioner for Economic Development, Trade, Tourism, Industry and Minerals. Welcome.
Thank you very much, the Director of Ceremony, and right on the earlier salutations by recognizing everybody and say all protocol observed, and I greet each and every one of you. The African Union is very much delighted to participate in the release of the 2023 World Openness Report. In coming to this occasion, we are also coming to reaffirm that we are living in one world. It is hence pertinent that we examine the state openness of our one world. In so doing, also reminding ourselves that we have a shared future, and this is a key message of the 60th China International Import Expo. As one world, we've been sharing goods and services for close to 100,000 years ago, when trade as we know it today started. Another way of looking at openness is interdependence, whose high point is globalization. These days, there's talk of deglobalization or re-globalization. Either way, we are moving backwards or forward in the journey of globalization, but we still live in one world. Openness in this connection needs to be enhanced. The World Openness Report is a positive input in this respect. And as African Union, we warmly welcome. And we see that it has very rich insights. We also that it brings out practical recommendations on how to broaden and deepen the openness of our world, especially the world economy. At this stage, I would like to warmly congratulate the researchers for a well-researched and highly analytical report. I now said that Africa and China have broad and deepening trade, investment, and cultural relations. I'll give a few examples. We are collaborating in payments and settlements. We're also collaborating in the Belt and Road Initiative. Furthermore, we're collaborating in industrialization, agriculture modernization, and talent development. It is against this background that many African countries are participating in the 60th China International Import Expo. At the continental level, our commitment to openness is the African Continental Free Trade Area, whose vision is to create one African market. And by establishing the African Continental Free Trade Area, we are also calling this process defragmentation. We are defragmenting the African economies. And by number of countries, which is 55, the African Continental Free Trade Area is the largest free trade area in the world. As part of this journey of defragmenting our economies, or making our economies more open to each other, we already have protocols, and these are the following. The protocol on free movement of people, right of residence, and right of establishment. We also have a protocol on investment. In addition, we have a protocol on intellectual property rights, and furthermore, we have a protocol on competition policy. A protocol on digital trade is under preparation. In all these protocols, the journey is to create frameworks for policy and regulatory harmonization so that we have one African market. And we also, since there's the issue of standards, we have what we call the Made in Africa standard. The idea here is that we're going to have a common standard which is going to spur innovation, which is going to be the benchmark for quality, and also the benchmark for safety. In addition to making it an instrument for removing technical barriers to trade among the African countries. And at the level of production, we are opening up to each other through the development of regional and continental value chains across Africa. May I conclude by saying that Africa is committed to building an open world economy, and we join forces with other stakeholders where there's some vision. Thank you very much. I end here.
Thank you, Mr. Albert Muchanga. So I'd like to thank all the guests for their splendid speech. As is spoken by everyone, peace, development, collaboration, and win-win is a trend of our times. So starting from the heights of the historical development of human being, President Xi Jinping had proposed the idea of building an open world economy to build a community of shared future, and has shown us a path to cope with the shared challenges and construct a better and more beautiful world. Global opening up, it is a core agenda of this forum. It is a very important driver of a civilization. It is a path we have to go. So in the future, on the condition of more openness, we need to constantly advance economic development and build a world where there is lasting peace, universal security, and common prosperity. We hope that in this discussion, you can share your insight so as to contribute for us to build consensus and facilitate world development. So let's give them a round of applause to thank their splendid keynote speeches. And also the launch of the World Openness Report 2023 keynote speech is not ended. So now we enter the second session, the launch of the World Openness Report 2023. So now let me give the floor to the Vice Chairman of Hongqiao International Economic Forum, Mr. Yu Zirong, to be the host of this part of the session.
尊敬的各位嘉宾，
distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. So, welcome to the press conference on World Openness Report 2023. So the World's Openness Report 2023, as a flagship report of this forum, it is compiled by CAS, the World Economic and Politics Research Institute, and the Research Institute of this forum. So this year marks the third year of the launch. So our research team actually has done a lot of work on this report. It is becoming more international, scientific, and authoritative. On October the 1st, in our news briefing in Beijing City, so we have talked about the new features of this report. So this year, and Mr. Zhang Yuyuan from CAS, and also Mr. Gu Xueming from this forum, they will formally launch the content of this report. So now let's give the floor to Mr. Zhang to introduce the part concerning the world opening. I'd like to thank the host, distinguished guests. Good afternoon. So today, we are solemnly launch the World Openness Report 2023. So on behalf of CAS, the Institute of World Economy and Politics, I'd like to share with you some of the content analysis of this report. So the World Openness Report was launched for the first time in the year of 2021, and now it's 3 years' time. The report in the year of 2023 continues to focus on building a open world economy, so it is more scientific, international, and authoritative. It is through the whole work of this report. Surrounding the changes after the pandemic, so we have opened the narrative of opening for the whole world. So this year, we can see that the journey has been winded. In the year of 2022, the World Openness Index was 0.7542, which was about 0.2% lower than 2021. And it was the second lowest since the year of 2008. And for 7 years in a row, it's between 0.75 and 0.76. The openness index has decreased, and it shows that the world's openness and mechanism is still not working properly, and we do not have a solid foundation for increase. The developed countries and emerging economies, together with developing economies, there has been a tightening, and it's worth our attention. From multiple perspectives, the performance of the world's openness has been so different from different perspectives. In the year of 2022, 78 economies contributed more to world opening up, and for 51 economies, their contribution decreased when compared with the same period last year from different areas. So in the key indexes that's in the report, and cultural opening index and economic opening index decreased by 2.9% and 0.4%, and the social openness index increased by 0.46 point. And from different regions, according to the grouping of the World Bank, among the 7 regions of the world, North America, Europe, and other 5 regions together decreased in this region, the openness. Just in South Asia, East Asia, and the Pacific region, openness actually increased. And if based on the grouping of revenue, the high-income economies and the medium revenue economies, they have shown different degrees of decrease. Only the low-income economies increased a little bit. And the openness status we have 2022, has been intertwined. The power that supports opening and the power that's thwarting opening. And in the year of 2022, we can see the driver has been economic expansion, tourism, and foreign students, and also a better opening policies and signing of agreements, etc. And the factors that's been hindering the opening comes from the taxes, tariffs, and also the decrease of transporter investment, and a decreasing of scientific communication internationally, and also tightening financial policies. It is worth opening that the headwind is actually stronger than the wind we need. So in recent years, the limitations of international trade has been growing, and there are more forms. And they are more covert. So some countries, their screening for foreign investment has been more serious, and the limitation for international scientific communication has been strengthened. So those led to a decrease of the indexes, not only influenced the opening of the world in that year, but also in the future. As a result, it increased the uncertainty and instability of the world opening. So although the index in 2022, when compared with 2008, it was 5.4% lower, it was basically in line with the trend in the past 15 years. But also, we do have the hope of increased the index. So during this period, social openness index increased by 15%, and also for the BRICS nations, openness increased by 7.4%, and the Belt and Road Initiative countries increased by 5.3%, and economies with higher revenue and economies with lower income, as well as other emerging countries, Southeast Asia and the Pacific region, has seen a 4.6% increase of their openness indexes. So although we have a strong headwind, but we do also have a stronger momentum. Economic, technological development, digital technologies continued to lessen the obstacles to the flow of the factors, including information, trade, etc., improving the efficiency of openness, and also the low carbon and green transformation globally has been picking pace, and collaboration has been deepening. Green trade based on environment product is becoming a new passive development. It is expected to increase the resilience of the industrial chain and supply chain. And in terms of policy, we have seen progress. For example, the visa opening index increased from 0.676 to a higher level. So international flights has increased to the over 90% of the level of 2019. This report has conducted theoretic research and also has went through the histories of humanity's opening. So it shows that opening will increase exposure to a country to risks, but also it increases a country's interaction with foreign countries. A country will be stronger accordingly, increasing a country's capability to do away with risks. So through this kind of mutual trust and deepened collaborations with foreign countries, they can get a better, stable external environment. So the fundamental way out, we believe, is to practice a security view that is shared, comprehensive, so as to make a better balance in opening and security. So opening is a fundamental force for a country. It guarantees economy's growth. So the more economy is open, the more it is able to develop. The more developed it is going to be more secure. So in global competition and collaboration, we need to foster this kind of opening. So a country should do their best to pursue the best degree of opening, the optimal level of opening,
so that we can actually achieve more net benefits from opening up. So even if countries with high level of opening up can reach or even exceed the consensual openness level, they can still make full use of their strong opening up capacity to improve the comprehensive level of world opening up, and then also they can have the optimal level of openness, and then we can all together build a community of shared future for mankind. And the above content was some of my own observations and also from the relevant chapters of our World Openness Report 2023. And I really sincerely urge you to read the report, and I look forward to your valuable comments and feedbacks. And then the content on China's opening up will be introduced by Mr. Gu Xueming, from the president of the Research Center for Hongqiao International Economic Forum. That's all from me. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Zhang Yuye. And now, please join me to welcome Mr. Gu Xueming to talk about the contents on China's opening up in the report. Distinguished leaders, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'll add on what Mr. Zhang already mentioned and mainly talk about what Openness Report 2023's content on China's opening up, as well as China's contribution to the global opening up. So this is actually the first session of CIIE after the COVID-19 pandemic. And then I would say this year also marks an important year for us to build China's opening up with actually distinctive Chinese features. And we can see that China's development in the world economy have a mutual, I would say, beneficiary relationship. And China's interaction with the world has become an example of opening up, and also implies China's goodwill and commitment to take the initiative to build a community of shared future for mankind. And now we face multiple challenges. As 2023 marks the 10th anniversary of the BRI, it's very significant for us to review the contribution and also the achievements of BRI to UN's SDGs. And then also it's very necessary for us to take the review. And then actually for the UN's 2030 agenda is a guiding, I would say, document to guide our global development and cooperation, and is in line with the BRI. And the BRI calls for policy coordination, infrastructure connectivity, unimpeded trade, financial integration, and strengthen people-to-people ties. And we actually have built a large number of projects, building a new platform for international trade and investment, making new contributions to improving the well-being and the livelihoods of people in all countries, also play an important role in the implementation of the 2030 agenda and contributing China's efforts to realizing UN's 2030 agenda. And we really hope through those practical actions we can help to break the bottlenecks in other developing countries. In the BRI, adheres to the spirit of joint consultation and sharing, and upholds the goals of high standards and to continue to benefit people's well-being. And we have promoted high-level regional cooperation and expanding space for tri-party cooperation, and we have explored a new path for South-South cooperation. And the BRI's projects are very strong in terms of its vitality and resilience, which have been widely recognized around the world. And I believe it has injected certainty into global sustainable development. And we have helped to shape a new paradigm for international development cooperation and enriched the global partnership. And actually, for the SDGs' successful implementation, we need joint efforts from all countries. And the key actually lies in helping the vast number of developing countries to stimulate economic and social development. They now face severe challenges, both externally and internally, in terms of the capital, tech, and human resources. So CIIE, since its inauguration in 2018, we have provided actually free booths and exhibition spaces for least developed countries in the world. And we offer them platforms for product display, investment negotiations, as well as cultural exchanges. And now they, with those opportunities and platforms, they can share their products and enter the Chinese market, and also can integrate into the tide of global economic development. According to statistics, 131 countries and international organizations participated in the national exhibition to the first 5 CIIE and debuting about 2,000 new products. And the cumulative intended turnover was exceeding 350 billion US dollars. And the HI Economic Forum, on the other hand, has strongly strengthened the international community's attention to global opening up. And we actually have led the discussion on opening up and development in all aspects around the globe. Currently, developing countries have become important participants and also contributors to global opening up. So through CIIE, we have both exhibition and also symposium and forums providing developing countries with important opportunities for global dialogue. And China is the largest developing country in the world. We have come up with a modernization path with distinctive Chinese features. And it has provided, in my view, a far-reaching kind of like a model for other developing countries. And also, China's modernization is a major opportunity for building an open world economy. At present, we face all sorts of difficulties and challenges, and then the momentum of world economic growth is weakening. While realizing China's own development, we are also trying to inject more positive energy into the recovery of the world economy, and also provide more stability and new opportunities for building an open world economy. And according to IMF, in 2023, China's contribution to the world economy will be exceeding 30%. And China's open development will also help Asia to become the most, I would say, dynamic region of the global economy after the COVID-19. And China's modernization has expanded the options of the world's modernization path. It definitely provided valuable experience in modernization for developing countries, both theoretically and practically. And now we have a more diversified ways of thinking about opening up and modernization. And we actually have integrated all sorts of development ideas, including concepts of green development, peace, mutual benefit, win-win cooperation, etc. And we have made outstanding contributions to the global sustainable development. The process of modernization in the world includes not only the modernization of developed countries, but also those of many developing countries. China is willing to join hands with other countries in common development to reach peaceful development, mutual beneficial cooperation, and at the very end, to achieve common prosperity. Last but not least, I wish the World Openness Report, the release of the World Openness Report 2023 a great success. We can gather more consensus on openness and explore more good measures for openness and form greater synergies for opening up, thus contributing to the construction of an open world community and build a community of a shared future for humankind. And I hope I strongly urge you to continue to stay tuned and look forward to the future releases of our report. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Gu Xueming. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that with the recently released World Openness Report 2023, we'll be able to have a more objective view to look at China's opening up and also the world's opening up. And now, for the international community, we can better gather consensus and also contribute to better global development. And we will now going to hand the floor to Wang Guan to moderate the next session. Thank you, Mr. Yu. And also, I want to thank our distinguished speakers for the wonderful speeches. And also, we're going to hear from our business leaders to hear their views in terms of opening up, which is distinctive features here at the Hongqiao Economic Forum. We believe that enterprises play a significant role in opening up. And also, what exactly are the environment that we need? They definitely know better, right? So that's why we need to hear from them. And we have the assistant of CIIE Fund Chairman and CEO Meng Xiangfeng, and Joseph Romani, President Human Health International for Merck, and Zhang Rong, Director of Business Management BOC, and Bruno Cheval, President China, North Asia and Oceania Danone, and Noe Quinn, Group Chief Executive of HSBC Holdings PLC. And first, I will give the floor to Mr. Meng Xiangfeng from CATL. And over the years, we feel that climate change actually getting closer to our daily life. And the year 2023 is actually the year with the highest temperature in our human history. And actually, on our way here, actually, the current temperature here today is 29 degrees Celsius, and also in Beijing we experienced heavy rainfalls not like long ago. And the CATL has become a leader in green energy. And we're not take any longer, but hand over the floor to Mr. Meng from CATL. Thank you. Distinguished leaders, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It gives me great honor to be here at the symposium. And just we witnessed the release of World Openness Report 2023, and the report had a look at the new features of global opening up, that we can gather consensus in opening up, and we can also be more confident in our opening up. The report also had new ideas in terms of the green trade and green development, so that we can build a better environment for green transformation. CATL serves the auto industry. It's actually a global industry. And we have all sorts of like participants in this industry. With the actually collaboration and integration, can we have a sustainable and stable supply chain? And you can see that China, South Korea, and Japan, auto companies have made a great success. It's exactly the result of global cooperation. And also CATL has achieved great, I would say, has actually achieved a lot of progress. It's exactly the result of globalization. With constant innovation in technology and everything, our goal is to serve the new energy sector and to actually bring a better life to everyone. And also, actually our objective is closely aligned with the global agenda. And now we're collaborating with the mainstream new energy vehicle manufacturers and providing actually battery and also sustainable battery solutions for over 10 million different new energy vehicles. We also have overseas plant in Hungary. And our goal is to have high-quality green development to serve our global clients. And we not only manufacture lithium-ion batteries, but also have done a lot of research in neodymium-ion battery, and also the supercharging batteries, etc. All sorts of like new products. And we not only provide batteries for electrical vehicles, but also for electric boats and ships, and also the actually storage batteries for our energy storage system. And currently, in response to the climate change, we still have a daunting task in front of us. That is why we still face multiple challenges in our green transformation. And we really hope that moving ahead, we can gather together in an unprecedented way to take actions so that we can open up and also collaborate to make our world greener and align our standards internationally.
Because when we work together, we can build strengths. Let's work together and build a green, clean, and beautiful world together. Thank you, Mr. Wang Xiangfeng, for your wonderful speech. So although we're at the post-pandemic era, but I think the process of fighting the pandemic is giving us some new perspective about the importance of pharmaceuticals and medicine. So opening up and serving the health of people. So what's the relationship between those two topics? So next, let's invite Mr. Joseph Romanelli, President of Human Health International for MSD, to speak.
For Human Health International for Merck. 大家掌声欢迎。Distinguished Minister Chen Deming, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Hao, Wolsher Loan Li. I am the president of MSD Human Health International, and it's my pleasure to be here with you today. It's an honor to speak at the press conference on the World Openness Report 2023. MSD is one of the leading biopharmaceutical companies in the world. We have one simple mission. That mission is to save and improve lives by developing products and inventing products that are innovative, that lead to improving outcomes in patients, regardless of the country where you live. Today, we operate in more than 100 countries in the world, and our founder had a very simple ethos. We try never to forget that medicine is for the people, and profits will follow. So again, it's my honor to be here today to establish this global consensus on openness, promote worldwide cooperation, and enhance the well-being of individuals across the globe. I would like to reference President Xi Jinping's astute observation that a single flower does not make spring, while 100 flowers in full blossom brings spring to the garden. Before diving into the topic of China's opening up, I would like to highlight the country's remarkable progress. China has become more capable, confident, and has implemented practical measures to foster openness. Last month, China successfully hosted the third Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation, which further expanded its commitment to openness. Amidst the destabilizing factors in the global economy, such as the impact of the pandemic, the implementation of initiatives such as the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership and the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, or CPTPP, has contributed to stabilizing the global economy and improved cooperation. These efforts have raised market expectations, promoted healthier and steadier development of industrial supply chains, and injected new energy into creation of an open world economy. The pharmaceutical industry was among the first in China to open up and remains a key industry in the era of high-leveling opening up. It has experienced rapid growth and has become one of the fastest-growing sectors in the national economy. In fact, in 2022, the pharmaceutical industry generated approximately 3.4 trillion RMB in revenue, demonstrating positive growth despite a very successful 2021. The pharmaceutical industry has benefited greatly from China's opening up in several ways. First, It's worth noting that alignment of important international standards has led to industrial upgrading. The integration of China's drug registration management system with international standards has reduced approval times and resulted in record-breaking number of approved drugs, biologics, and vaccines. Furthermore, the new version of China's patent law in 2021 provides separate provisions for drug protection, clarifying the drug patent linkage system, and drug patent compensation system. Out of the 32 innovative drugs listed in China between 2016 and 2021, 18 of these drugs have the potential to obtain a maximum 5-year patent compensation period, which accounts for about 60% of the total drugs approved. These positive measures have played a crucial role in promoting industrial upgrading through international integration. Moreover, local enterprises have been able to shift from low-cost manufacturing and generics operations to now becoming more Chinese-based biotech focused on innovation and invention. While multinational companies have also introduced leading products, small molecules, and vaccines into the market, such as MSD's HPV vaccine, Gardasil, as well as MSD's PD-1 antibody for cancer, Keytruda. Secondly, openness has fostered the iteration of business models through expanded market access. China continuously optimizes its business environment and encourages foreign investment, which contributes to new business model iteration. By implementing various measures aimed at improving the business environment and related policies, the landscape for foreign-funded enterprises in China has gradually shifted. They have transitioned from merely sales and marketing activities to investing in manufacturing facilities and, more importantly, innovative R&D centers. This shift not only facilitates international scientific and technology exchange, but also cooperation, talent development, mobility, industry, academic, and research collaboration. In 2011, MSD established a research and development center in Beijing. This research center has 1,200 scientists and individuals focused on drug discovery and development. The center provides support for our business in China as well as our global operations. It initiates synchronized global research and development efforts and promotes China's integration into the global innovation ecosystem. Lastly, regional collaboration has proven successful in creating leading pilot projects that effectively utilize global medical resources. In fact, in February 2013, the Boao International Medical Tourism Pilot Zone was established in Hainan, allowing for the testing of critically needed drugs and medications, as well as medical instruments, into the designated medical institutions. As of March 4th, 2023, 348 licensed medical equipment varieties, 125 types of small molecules and biologics, and 223 types of medical devices have been approved for introduction. I'm delighted to share with you the good news that MSD has established a new legal entity in Hainan this past year, making us the first foreign-invested legal entity in the region. Our engaging discussions with the Hainan government during the CIIE last year further strengthened our conviction to invest in China. In the end, I would like to offer a suggestion for China's high-quality opening up. Increasing support for cultural openness, including cross-border trade and intellectual property services, while ensuring overall controllable national security risks, it would be beneficial to moderately relax regulations concerning the provision of personal information for overseas scientific research and clinical drug development activities. For drug research and development scenarios, the export of relevant subject data is a necessary step for the multinational pharmaceutical companies to participate in international multi-center clinical studies. This engagement for drug development and research is critical for us to continue to open up. Additionally, embracing digital solutions is a crucial way for us to continue that existential focus on saving and improving lives. Digital transformation is becoming increasingly vital for future societies, as well as our sector. We anticipate that the application of digital solutions will become more prominent so that consumers can understand their health, the opportunities to improve their health and live longer and healthier lives. We as a company remain committed to that mission, and we look forward to the discussions and learning more about how China will further open up. 谢谢.
Thank you, Joseph, for that very interesting speech. I think it's remarkable when you mentioned the fact that serving the fundamental needs of patients remains an ethos for companies, and I think that is a very useful conference and reference as well. 接下来我们将
Okay, so next we will hear a speaker from the finance world, because we know that finance is a blood and vein for us. And in the central government's economic conference, it was proposed for the first time we need to build a strong nation in finance. So banks, how should banks open better and serve the entities of the global market? So our next speaker is Madam Zhao Rong, Director of Business Management, Bank of China. So Bank of China is called one of the most internationalized banks in China, and the first bank of systemic importance globally. So Madam Zhao Rong, you have the floor, please. Distinguished leaders, guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends from the media, good afternoon. So it is a pleasure to join you here in this World Openness Report 2023 launch and International Symposium. So on behalf of the Bank of China, I'd like to extend my cordial welcome to all the leaders and guests. And we'd like to thank you for your trust and support. So opening up has become a very important mark for China. So in the opening session this morning, President Xi Jinping extended a letter of congratulation to this forum. He said that we will commit to high-level opening up and committed to leading to globalization to the direction of win-win, balanced and beneficial for everybody. And this speech by Premier Li Qiang proposed that market innovation, inclusiveness, and he proposed 4 keywords for opening up. So currently, deglobalization is surging, and we are lacking a momentum for development. So it is very important to use this forum as a very important platform to stabilize the international finance situation and restructure a world order that is open and inclusive. So, as a bank that has a history of over 100 years and the most international one in this country, Bank of China has always been committed to opening up. So together, I'd like to share with you some 3 points from the perspective of financial opening up. So first, we need to share China's big market to facilitate trade connection and financial connection. So for a long period of time, Bank of China, starting from our advantages in foreign exchange and based on cash management, international settlement, transnational RMB, and also bond services. For international and domestic entities, we provide solutions, financial solutions. We actively advocate the use of RMB in other countries, and also the settlement of RMB has increased 700 trillion RMB, which is #1. And also, we have undertaken about 25% of the international settlement business of China. We know that international investment is very important for countries like China because we can provide new opportunities for the world. So for financial institutions, we need to provide high-level financial services to facilitate the improvement of the free trade zone and also to commit ourselves to the initiatives at the Silk and Road trade areas, help our foreign trade to improve quality. So we will actively promote the use of RMB overseas to develop our offshore market and also currency swap exchanges. At the same time, we will increase the use of financial products in transporter, e-commerce, and other businesses, and also their level of digitalization. Use the power of finance to help China's big market to be a market shared by the world. And secondly, is to build the connection of rules and promote the international benchmarking of financial standards. In recent years, Bank of China has been deepening our collaboration with regulators and banks of other countries. In fintech, green bonds, transformational finance, and standard making, we continued to play a very important role. So in the central government's financial conference, it is indicated that we need to introduce in and go out and expand the institutional opening up in finance. Financial institutions need to rely on China's huge demand.
And we need to continue to promote cross-border collaboration and also align with international standards so that we can also stay consistent with high level and top international standards, and also to realize the integration of high level and high standard international rules. Third, we need to expand an ecosystem of global cooperation where we have more opportunities for collaboration. BOC is actually the Chinese bank with the highest level of internationalizations, and in over 44 BRI countries we have our branches, and we actually provide financing to $29 billion in over 1,000 projects along the BRI. And then also, we have helped to finance both big and small projects along the BRI. And now, China is actually the main trade partner of over 140 countries in the world, and also the main resources for trade and goods. And we believe that financial institutions can play an important role in this regard, so that we need to also collaborate better in terms of trade deals and promote both bilateral, multilateral, as well as regional and global collaboration in terms of rules and regulations. Looking into the future, BOC will continue to tap up into our advantages and serve the real economy, and also defend the stability of our finance, further contribute to the prosperity of global economic development. Last but not least, I send congratulations to the release of What Openness Report 2023, and I wish the foreign a complete success. Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Zhao Rong. So there's a saying in China that food is at the very heart of people. And over the past decade, what exactly have we done in terms of high quality food? And how can we have a better and nutritious food and beverages? Danone has made it its mission to bring healthy food to people. And now we'll give the floor to President of China, North Asia and Oceania of Danone.
Mr. Bruno Chavot is the President for China, North Asia and Oceania for Danone. Let's welcome.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's truly a pleasure to join you as we dig today in this very important topic of openness for enterprises from the enterprises perspective. Over the past 45 years, since the initiation of China's reform and opening up policy, the world has witnessed the country rising to the second largest economy. There is no discussion that China's achievements are tremendous. Only in 22, name among few, the country has attracted a record of $189 billion in foreign investment, marking the highest level since the policy inception. The import and export balance scale has surpassed $6 trillion, solidifying the position as the world's largest trader of goods in the 6 consecutive years. During the first 3 quarters of the year, closest to today, in 23, China has attracted the establishment of more than 37,000 foreign-funded companies, which is up by more than 32% versus last year. For us as Danone, as one of the pioneering foreign company in the Chinese market, Danone has been deeply rooted in China since '87. Thanks to China progressive reforms and opening up, we proudly consider ourselves a witness, a contributor, and a beneficiary of this transformation. China has become now Danone's second largest market, with a presence up to 10 factories, more than 8,000 employees, contributing them to more than 10% of the global company revenue last year. As the witness of China openness, we have clearly seen the substantial growth triggered by reforms and opening up. This growth has significantly enhanced the standard of living of the Chinese population. For example, the GDP per capita had jumped from $200 in the early days to more than 12,000 today. Equally important, Chinese consumers have become more demanding when it comes to health and nutrition, demonstrating a growing interest for a healthier lifestyle. The dynamic environment offers significant opportunities for companies like Danone and provide with a chance to support also the nation's healthy and beautiful China agenda. As you probably know, Danone's mission is to bring health through food to as many as people as possible. And we do this by offering science-based products that makes a real difference to our consumers. They are designed to support consumers at all stages of life, to grow well from the first 1,000 days and to age in good health, and they are also tailored to meet the local nutritional preferences. As the participants in China Openness, we have witnessed the remarkable social progress the country has achieved in various areas, such as its legal system improvement, the advancement in education, social security, or the remarkable urbanization. In 21, a very important milestone has been crossed. China has successfully eradicated absolute poverty, and the nation has made a notable shift towards also green energy, accounting now for more than 25% of total energy consumption. Furthermore, China has seen an important evolution in scientific and technical innovation, with increase of research and development funding and a widespread integration of technology into people's daily life. Danone, as a company, is committed to support the healthy and beautiful China agenda. And for example, we have launched several programs to help China's special nutritional needs groups. We are proud to co-work with our local partners to help to achieve the 30-60 dual carbon goals. And our contribution in China was guided by the company funding principle dating back to '72 about our dual commitment that equally prioritizes social progress and economic success. As the beneficiary of China openness, Danone firmly believes that China will continue to follow the path of openness. And during the 10th anniversary of the Belt and Road Initiative, President Xi Jinping announced 8 major steps to support high-quality Belt and Road cooperation, in which he highlighted China's commitment to support the open world economy. This greatly encouraged us as we remain steadfast in our commitment and will spare no efforts to support China's path to social and economic progress. As I close my remarks today, I'd like to say that the CIIE itself has evolved into a prominent exhibition of China's high-quality openness, where enterprises can showcase their dedication to the market and development. And I would like also to congratulate the event organizer on releasing the 23 World Openness Report, as it truly builds global consensus on openness and promote cooperation of the world. I warmly invite all the leaders in this assembly to visit our pavilion and Hall 2.2, where we bring everything I just said into life. Thank you very much for your attention. Wish you a great event.
Thank you, Bruno, for highlighting the importance of having this healthy lifestyle and starting first and foremost with a healthy diet. Thank you very much. 接下来我们要介绍的这位企业代表，他来自一个成立在1865年的
We're going to
集团，
hand over the floor to Noah Quinn, a company with over 150 years of history, and that is HSBC. HSBC has experienced rounds and rounds of tech advancements, and now please join me to welcome Noah Quinn, Group Chief Executive, HSBC Holdings, and he'll be joining us through a video.
Your Excellency, distinguished fellow speakers and guests, it's a great honor to be invited to speak at this forum on this important theme of global openness. I would like to share some perspectives on the significance of China's opening up and connectivity with the world, and how a multinational financial institution like HSBC can contribute to it. After a difficult few years during the global pandemic, I have greatly enjoyed being able to visit the Chinese mainland again. I have traveled to a number of cities this year, visiting Beijing, Shanghai, and the Guangdong region, and reconnecting in person with many colleagues and friends. On each occasion, I have heard from our clients and partners that they are very eager to fully restore their links with the rest of the world. And I have also heard this same message in my exchanges with national and municipal authorities and regulators. I very strongly believe that global economic growth and prosperity depends upon interconnectivity between countries and regions. I am pleased that China intends to play a full part in this, and I believe that it has the support of the international business community, including HSBC, in doing so. China's openness to new ideas and willingness to learn from others has unquestionably helped its development. I continue to see significant benefits for China and its partners from the two-way exchange of goods, services, ideas, experiences, best practice, and cultures. With each of these flows, promoting mutual economic development, driving cooperation in new areas, and encouraging greater mutual understanding and trust. China's commitment to further opening up is of great significance to all companies, with operations and investments in China, as well as its international business partners. In HSBC's case, we have invested to expand our business in China in line with its financial opening, which has enabled us to become the largest foreign financial institution in the country. Thanks to China's continuing policy reforms and strong support of the government and regulators, for which we are grateful. We have, over the past 2 years, taken full ownership of HSBC Life Insurance, increased our stake in HSBC Shanghai Securities, and acquired an insurance brokerage firm which has recently been granted a fund sales license. Our business now covers banking, asset management, insurance and securities, all alongside our shareholding in Bank of Communications. And this is enabling us to better serve our clients in China and in international markets, while also supporting China's economic policy goals. So far, HSBC has helped around a quarter of the foreign companies operating in China to enter the market, and more than 1,200 Chinese companies and their subsidiaries to access more than 50 markets overseas. And we look forward to taking new opportunities that arise as a result of China's further opening up. One such area of opportunity is the technologies needed to drive the low-carbon transition. China is, of course, already home to many pioneering technology companies. It leads the world in manufacturing clean energy facilities for wind and solar power. And China accounted for around 2/3 of global sales of full electric vehicles last year. China's continued development in these sectors and the opportunities they bring for exports will be hugely significant for China and the world's ability to reach net zero. HSBC looks forward to supporting this process by leveraging our capabilities to support the innovation economy, which have been significantly strengthened this year through the development of our global HSBC innovation banking proposition. Your Excellency, I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to share some thoughts on global openness at such an important international forum. HSBC remains fully committed to connecting China with the rest of the world. And I send my very best wishes to everyone at CIIE. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for your wonderful speech. We heard that our guests actually have favorable views about China's continued opening up, and they hope that we can continue to increase our capacity and also the benefits in this process. So that's the end of this session. So now let's enter session 4, a discussion about the prospects of world opening up. So I'm still going to be the host. We will have very important guests to come up onto the stage, and first we have Mr. Christopher A. Pissarez, Regius Professor of Economics at the London School of Economics, Nobel Laureate in Economic Science 2010. And next one is Mr. Hongqiao, Executive Deputy Director of the Economic Committee of China Institute for Innovation. And then we have Mr. Long Guoqiang, Vice President of Development Research Center of the State Council. And then we have Madam Jiang Xiaojuan, President of the China Association of Industrial Economics, Professor. And then we have Mr. Zheng Yongnian, Director of the Institute of International Affairs, Shanghai, the Chinese University of Hong Kong, Shenzhen. Welcome. Okay, so we know that many guests can't wait to listening to what the experts are going to talk about. So first, let's proceed with the analysis about the world opening up. So our first guest is a laureate of the Nobel Prize, Christopher A. Pissarez. He's going to speak via video.
I'm speaking to you from London, England. My name is Christopher Pissarez. I'm a professor of economics at the London School of Economics. I take this opportunity to say a few things about the role of openness in international economic development and the role that the Openness report plays in promoting openness worldwide. Economists know by now what's good for economic growth and what is not good. Investment in new technology and in people through education promote growth. Political conflicts and excessive bureaucracy undermine it. We also know that openness, acting through international trade, gives access to a larger market size. Larger market size enables countries to promote specialization and efficiency, explore fully their comparative advantages, and bring growth beyond the limits that countries could achieve if they try to do it all by themselves. In addition, openness promotes mutual understanding between people and reduces conflict. A world that engages in free social, cultural, and economic interaction, including exchange of ideas and travel across borders, is one that is superior to a system of recluse nations. Understanding each other's cultures and social conventions is a prerequisite to peaceful coexistence. Exchange of goods and ideas opens horizons that cannot be unlocked by single, isolated countries. Openness doesn't have to be a sudden event, but it must be guided by good practice. This is something rightly emphasized in the report in your hands. The key is to build the openness capabilities of countries, and the right time to put them to use and open up the economy will arrive. Every country should be prepared to open up when the right time comes. And you can find out how to do it in one of the chapters of this book. The World Openness Report gives us a guiding principle, which we must all follow. Let the light of science and reason guide the world through the thorns to a smooth path. Guided by this principle, we can achieve a lot. Economic openness received a lot of support and grew rapidly in the 1980s, with concurrent movements by several large countries. On the front line, we find China and its opening up policies, introduced gradually, but at sufficient speed to turn it 30 years later into the biggest trading nation on earth. In Europe, members of the European Union were establishing the single European market, with total economic, social and cultural openness. In the Americas, a free trade area, NAFTA, was being established by the United States and its neighbors. Given the increased interdependence between nations that was brought about by these developments, countries established first GATT and then the WTO, which encouraged more opening up and intervened to resolve disputes where they arose. These trends became known as globalization, a push that led to a lot more openness than before. Unfortunately, the current situation with globalization and opening up is not so good. As the World Openness Report emphasizes, we have been regressing, at least for the last 15 years. As usual with socioeconomic developments, there is no single reason for this that one can put one's finger on. But there is no doubt that the worsening geopolitical situation worldwide is not helping. The report clearly shows that the Openness Policy Index has experienced a decline, and this needs to be reversed if we're to progress. Openness necessarily involves cross-border collaboration. If there ever was one issue on this planet that we need more cross-border collaboration, indeed that we depend on it for our survival, is the protection of our environment. I congratulate the authors of this report for bringing a discussion of the greening of trade, and from there of the global economy, into the openness discussion. The World Openness Report calculates a World Openness Index for many countries, which provides information about their openness to the rest of the world. This information is essential as it indicates to countries where they have weaknesses and where they need to act. As it is clear from my comments so far, I find the chapters that take deeper dives into key issues equally innovative and useful for all readers, especially businesses and governments, which drive openness forward. I warmly congratulate the Hongqiao International Economic Forum and the Institute of World Economics and Politics at the Chinese Academy for Social Sciences for their initiative to produce this report and make it an annual event, and for the care that they have taken to produce an authoritative account of the status quo and how we can advance it. Thank you very much for listening, and best wishes for the rest of your conference.
好，感谢皮萨里德斯教授的分享。我们听到了
Thank you
认
for
为基于各
Professor
自
for
国家
sharing.
比较优
So
势
he
的
talked
自由
about
贸易
the
和
free
全球
trade
化，
based
虽
on
然
the
应该
comparative
是大势所
advantages
趋，
should be
但
the
是在
trend
世界开放的前景当中，
we
还是
take,
挑战重
but
重。
still
黄
is
子凡主席接下
challenging.
来想请教
So
您一个问题
next to
啊，我们知
Mr.
道今
Huang
年
would
是
like
改
to
革
ask
开
you
放
one
45
question
周
because
年，
this year marks the
其实
45th
您作为一个
anniversary
亲历
of the
者和
reform
实践
opening
者，
up. You
您
have been
应
a
该比我
practitioner
们
and
更
you
清楚这
experienced
45
it.
年的过程，
So
实现一
you
个在
know better
差距
the
中
past
反
45
超学
years.
习，
So
在
we've
差异
been
中比较鉴别的过
learning
程。
and
那您觉得
comparing.
中国下一步
So
的
what do
对
you
外开放
think
还有
are
哪
the
些
next
工作需
step
要
for
做，
China's
还有哪
opening
些
up?
潜力和
So
空
what
间？
are the potentials and spaces?
我想说呢，从18大以后，
So
我
I
们
think
中
from
国
the
的开放
18th National
进入了
Congress,
一个以
China's
内循
opening
环为
has
主体不是
entered
说
a
外双
stage
循环的
where
结
we
果
have a dual
那么这个
circulation,
新
we have
格局
internal
新
circulation and external
的阶
circulation.
段，我
At this
们
new
开放
stage,
有些什么特点
so what are the
呢？我想
characteristics
从
of
过去
our
10
opening up?
年的
So
5
I
个
think
新特点
I'd like to speak about the characteristics of the past 10 years. We can predict the coming 2 to 3 decades, what China's opening up is going to be like. In the past 10 years, China's opening up has shown 5 new characteristics. The first is that in the past few decades, we have been trade-oriented, and we are transitioning from export to import at the same time. So it is not a pursuit of a trade surplus, but we promote a balanced trade. For example, we are here to talk about import. This is a very unique exhibition for import. So it represents our effort to strengthen import. And at the same time, in the past 10 years, starting back in 2010, our export and import tax was about 20%, and in 2015 it was about 15%. Now it is about 7%. So I think by 2025 it is going to be lower than 5%, reaching the average standard for the WHO. So it all says that we have been trying hard to support import. And secondly, I think the regional opening policies has been developed in the past 4 decades. So all the opening up policies actually start from the coastal regions. For example, in the very beginning, there were 27 opening up areas, and then 14 cities and 5 special zones and 2 specific economic zones, including Pudong, etc. So, and then on the basis of that, after a few years, when we accumulate experience, then we put those models into mid and western part of China. So after the 18th National Congress, in different parts of China, we have been opening up together. For example, according to the latest policy, the free trade zone, in 5 batches in 10 years' time, 7 of those were in the coastal regions and 6 in the continent areas. So now it's 20 plus the Hainan Island. So you can see the number is huge. So that's for one. And secondly, is the tax-free areas. So in the bonded area, so actually it is a area in the near the border area. So it's near the sea. In 2010, those are very close to the coastal areas. And in the past 1 decade or so, we increased to 70 or so bounded area. So now the total area is about 150. And the newly added 70, among them 60 lies in inland areas, including Chongqing and Shanxi. And in the coastal regions, we have 7 or 8 more. So in total, you can see 50% lies in the inland area and 50% lies in the coastal region. So which is a totally different from the traditional policy. So we can see a clear change of distribution. And the third thing is China's investment policy. When compared with the past, we give more priority to introducing foreign investment. So now we encourage foreign investment into China, but also Chinese businesses to go out, to go international, to make more investment in the Belt and Road regions. For example, from 2017 to 2022, during the 5 years, and the number of Chinese business, the total investment of Chinese business overseas has reached 100 billion RMB. So that number never was exceeded 500 billion. So as you can see, the pace has been picked up. So of course, when we were doing investment, it's not as good as introducing in. For example, from 2017 to 2022, in the past 5 years, every year we sign a contract about 60 billion RMB. So in total, it's about 800 billion. So the total balance is okay. So we can see this is a new feature. And the next thing is that when we are introducing foreign investment, there are more areas from the era of the WTO, from trade, from the tangible products. So, for example, including real estate, construction, etc. Now we're transitioning to trading services, healthcare, and finance, etc., bond, and other banks, insurances, etc. So those services and trade has been expanded. So the opening up currently is in more areas, in more channels, and it's comprehensive. And the next thing I want to say is that we have transitioned from encouraging the opening up of factors and flow to more about the rules, regulations, and institutions arrangements, so that in this country we can be more based on the FTA so as to form access the list management method. So those 5 changes were what I seen in the past. I think it represented China's high-level development. It's more in-depth, it's more comprehensive, and in the coming few decades, we are going to certainly go towards this direction.
Thank you, Mr. Huang, for your comprehensive and detailed sharing, especially in terms of the trends over the past decade. I believe that you have shared with us really deep insights. Thank you very much for your input. And I would say, academically, Professor Zheng, you have contributed a lot to, Mr. Long, contributed a lot to this process. And what is exactly your take in terms of global opening up, and how can we build common opening up? So, Madam Jiang, okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. I strongly agree with the content and also the result of our World Openness Report 2023, and compared with the previous 2 years, we see a lot of improvements. And it's not only about quantitative analysis, but also in different segments. We have in-depth data and also the most up-to-date data up until the end of 2022. And that is indeed a global public good, which provides accurate information to us. And also, I totally agree with the numbers shared by previous speakers. I would say, in my view, in terms of both trade and investment over the years, the general direction is going stable, but of course the percentage has been trending down. But then also another very distinctive feature is that we now have a more, I would say, in-depth or more detailed development of this process. So we do not have as rapidly a rapid growth rate compared with what we had in terms of globalization prior to 2012. And the new situation has already come up after 2009. And also, globally, in terms of the trade, the global trade is actually trending down in terms of its share of the global GDP. And then also, global employees, especially like foreign assets, international M&A are also trending down. So in our, I would say, in our view, in our imagination, before we see substantial changes in the relationship between China and the US, those trends have already come up. And as Mr. Huang mentioned, there are different driving forces, both positive and negative. Maybe it's actually a lot of human factors in this process, because I do a lot of research in this regard. I also want to add some of my comments. So global opening up has been slowing down over the past few years. There are, of course, a lot of both objective and subjective reasons. So for instance, I talked to many, let's say, auto companies. As multinational players, I would ask them, why is it that you are actually reducing your global touch points? So they would tell me that, for instance, a certain model of our car would only be produced in 7 countries, let's say, just an example, but now the parts of that vehicle are now produced or manufactured in over 27 countries or 37 countries, and everything is getting more and more fragmented, and there would be a reasonable line for us to set our global touch point. So we have already achieved or actually reached a reasonable allocation of the division of labor across the globe. So that's the fundamental change that we see. So second, thanks to development of technology, as Mr. Meng from CATL mentioned, that you are actually ranking #1 in terms of your power battery. I really would soon like to pay a visit to you. I really respect your company, and then we can see that globally, fossil fuel trade is trending down, and a lot of fossil fuels are imported or exported for, let's say, internal combustion vehicles. But now, with the advancement of new energy vehicles, the overall percentage of fossil fuel energy is going down, and the new energy's percentage is going up, accounting for, let's say, almost 40% of the global, actually China's energy consumption. And also, with this kind of like stability of global trade, as I said earlier, there are both objective and subjective reasons. And one benefit is that with the change of minds and with the change of policies and attitudes, there would definitely be a huge, like say, a U-turn in the policy. We still need to remember what's kind of like the fundamental theory or fundamentals here. And then now we see protectionism and also all sorts of like other like de-globalization trends that we witness around the globe. So that's why I wanted to add some of my observations. And in terms of the deepening of global division of labor, one segment in the World Openness Report 2023, there have been a lot of detailed numbers provided in terms of supply chain or value chain trade. There has been an upward trend over the years. And then global value chain trade is actually the incremental value instead of the like aggregate number. So that is a good number for us to have a look at the incremental volume that we have. And over the past decade, the value chain has increased from 400 billion to over 1.4 trillion in China. And for US, it has grown from 850 billion to over 1.5 trillion as well. And then we can see the continuous improvement that we have. And then also we see it's a division of labor, not just about the trade, but also a deepening of our work, and it's more important. And now we have all sorts of like different concatenations that we have in terms of global collaboration. And thanks to those subjective and objective reasons, we did not experience rapid change, but still we observed many new trends. So every collaboration is going deeper. So indeed, as Madam Jiang said, that we are actually deepening our collaboration in many aspects. Thank you for your input. And Mr. Long Guoqiang, so what is your take in terms of the conflict and balance between both positive and negative contributors or actually factors to global openness? So thank you, Mr. Wang. Now we are in an era of tabulation, and how can we respond to those complexities and uncertainties and seize the trends of our times? This topic is of great relevance. So the World Openness Report has been released for over 3 years consecutively. And we have, thanks to the report, built quite a comprehensive framework to analyze new trends in economic opening up. And every time I read the report, I would learn a lot. And now, in terms of our current status, there are a lot of distinctive features and also new trends. There are a few things that we need to pay attention to. First, in terms of speed, the global economic globalization is in a period of readjustment. So after the financial crisis in 2008, that was kind of like a turning point for us. So ever since like the early 90s and prior to 2008, we experienced a rapid growth rate in terms of globalization, all sorts of like foreign investment. So that was over 200 billion US dollars to 1.8 trillion US dollars. And ever since then, after the 2008 financial crisis, things have been fluctuating. And also, trading goods also has been declining. And there are multiple factors contributing to this new trend. And we need to observe both the short-term impacts, such as the pandemic, and then also inflation, and then the weakening of our global growth, and also geopolitical issues, etc. But we still need to see that in terms of the speed of globalization, we are in the new period of readjustment. It's not that we come to an end point, but a new phase of readjustment, because globalization is not just growing continuously, because we would also have ups and downs in this process, and the overall trend remains the same. But currently, we are in this new stage of readjustment. And second, in terms of our goal, over the past years, the globalization is kind of like has one goal only. It's about economic benefits. It's only about improvement of efficiency and productivity. But during the process, we still need to pay attention to the widening of the income gap, and then also the matter of equality. And also due to natural disasters such as like earthquake, and we also have the pandemic, which pose threats to the security of our supply chain. And whether it's government or the private sector, they now pay more attention to the problem of, or to the issue of security. How can we make the supply chain more resilient? So we're no longer only pursuing efficiency, but now it's about security, and also about the kind of like the balance that we can achieve among every aspect. And we have diversity of supply chain, and also going regional, going local. So everything is in the process of evolution. And behind that, I believe, there are different goals, right? It's not only about efficiency, but all about like security, and also about fairness or equality. And then we need to think about how much efficiency can we sacrifice for the sake of security, and then what exactly are the most important priorities that we need to consider. And the third, the growth momentum. One of the new drivers of our development would be digitalization, especially in this new era. And with the advancement of transportation technologies, the cost of this entire sector has been greatly reduced, which gives rise to the rapid development of trading in goods. And over the past 3 decades, we see the rapid development of IT and digitalization. And thanks to development of IT technology and digitalization, now the cost of cross-border information transformation has been greatly reduced as well. In this regard, of course, the trading service has been growing more rapidly than trade in goods. And now trading service actually accounts for over 56%, more than half of the global economy. And it's the new momentum, new driver of our global growth. And not only just about digital economy, but also we see many different fronts. So that we have like different improvements of our digital development rules and the improvement of governance. And then also fourth, in terms of our concept or the philosophy, there has been a new concept, a new trend of going green and going low carbon. We have like green development, and so, for instance, if you go to Europe, every company talks about carbon neutrality and green development. So, which actually that helps us to drive further green development and green trade. So we have $8.84 trillion in terms of green trade, accounting for over 18% of the global trade, which also is rapidly growing. So green trade and green investment, they're becoming important contents and also drivers of our global economy. There have been new rules for green trade, and then also things have been improving as well. In the process, you see that regulations have two directions. One direction, of course, is about the WTO's deals on green products is actually about promoting the liberalization of green products.
Some economies, their rules for green objectively could be a thwart to green trade. So yeah, it's actually protectionism, actually just like grain, but it's actually protectionism. And another thing we noticed is that it's becoming more grouped, with a manifestation in regional collaboration organizations in the beginning of the 1990s. Globally, there were just about 20 FTAs. So currently, around 500, all kinds of it. So they are intertwined. So there has been a discussion about WTO as for what's the role of these. And gradually, people believe it's actually more advanced. So there is a bright side because it facilitates the investment facilitation, and also it became a foundation for the new rules to form. A lot of CPTPP and DIPA and other initiatives, they're actually taking the lead in making new rules. So we are also talking about high standards, international standards. So we are actively participated in free trade in this world. So we are riding on this trend. So personally, I think those were the trends that we need to pay attention to. Thank you. So, thank you. Thank you for your speech and for sharing and your insights. We need to balance efficiency, fairness, and security. It is a delicate balance we need to face, and the challenge faced by us. And for Mr. Zheng Nian, we know that globalization has been viewed as a cave for Alibaba. For now, it's regarded as a Pandora's box. So we have many historical lessons. If we do not let our merchandise go out, the soldiers will go out. So what's your view on this competition between globalization and deglobalization? What's your take on the future? So the previous speakers have spoken a lot about this topic. So I'd like to speak a little about history. I'd like to talk about things. So one is pessimistic. So I think that globalization and opening up, because when you open up, you can have globalization. So we can say globalization is very much related to opening up. So in our recent history, as Chinese people say that things change every 30 years, so I think we are entering a long period of deglobalization. So since the beginning of this year, we can see that from the first stage is from 1875, it was Europe-centered. So that wave of globalization advanced the world economy and also generated the problems we have today. For example, internal social problems, and secondly, external nationalism, because some countries developed and some other countries were left behind. So those countries that were not developed, they resort to nationalism that led to the World War I. So everybody said, and historians say, if there were trade, there wouldn't be a war. So between World War I and World War II, from 1914 to 1915, there were not globalization, but still there were conflicts. And until the beginning of the 1970s, there was a conflict between the United States and Soviet Union. The Western, it was a globalization actually promoted by the Western world. So the Soviet Union, not so much globalization because they had planned economy. So it was a semi-globalization, and starting from 1980s to 2008 until the financial crisis, so we entered a stage of super-globalization. So this super-globalization, just like before, created a gigantic amount of wealth, creating the same set of issues. First is that the United States, because there has this gigantic stratification of their classes, and shrinking middle class. Some countries developed, including the northern countries, and the countries in the south were not developed, because in the past 30 years or so, they did not really benefit from globalization. So some countries even became poorer. So starting from 2008, in the United States especially, President Trump started the trade war. So now we can see that it's actually much more negative than positive. The Western world that was pushing for globalization, so nowadays no Western country is pushing for globalization. The biggest issue for the United States, they're having a general election next year. If Trump comes back, so I think deglobalization will only accelerate instead of decelerating, because Trump is now taking a lead, actually. So they are talking about re-globalization. That is exclusive regional trade and globalization. So they're actually deglobalizing. It's just like the conflict between the United States and Europe and the Soviet Union. And in Europe, they're still influenced by the Ukrainian war. So even if the war comes to an end, Europe is put into a new round of politics competition, because the UK has had Brexit, and Germany increased their military expenditure by a huge margin. So and rearmed Germany is a big threat to the other countries. So I think that even if the Ukrainian war is ended, a new round of war will start. What about the other countries? So that's about the Western world, because they really started globalization. No country is standing out and have the strength to start a new globalization. And they're resorting to trade protectionism. And for the other countries, for the BRICS countries, they represent the emerging southern countries. I think the BRICS countries is not a bloc, it's not a consolidated power. So if you look at India, so India focuses on its own version. So I think all those are actually influencing China. So my judgment is that from the point of history, we're entering an era of geopolitics instead of globalization. So this is a new era of conflict and wars. So now, actually, I did a lot of research recently. So for the capitals, what they are afraid of most is not geopolitics, but rather war. Because for politics, we can still make a judgment and can have some loss, but for when wars occur, capitals will be lost 100%. So now I feel that for the capitals, they do not regard the Ukrainian war as a big problem, or the Hamas and Israel, but rather the conflicts in the future, the real wars in the future. So if this perception is not changed, then capital globalization is going to be, they're still going to be very careful instead of being active. So although we said that China played a very active role, because I'm going to talk about it, in my positive view, it depends on China. For the Western world, especially between China and the US, they're not cooperating, but rather they're having this conflict. According to the Wall Street Journal, they're saying that China is not stable. The Taiwan issue, South China issue, and internal politics, they said China is a place that investment should avoid. So for such negative recognitions and information wars, we know that in the Ukrainian-Russian war, they are waging this information war. Now it's extending to globalization and in the realm of economy. So if we do not change this, the situation is going to deteriorate again. So that's my negative view. I'll talk about my positive ones. Thank you so much for your seemingly pessimistic view, but still it's promising. He talked about the geopolitical conflicts between Russia and Ukraine, and also the general election in the US and its conflict influence on the globalization. And also he talked about the tense situations around the globe. So thank you so much for Professor Zheng. And then let's get into the next round of discussion. So my question is for Mr. Huang Xihuan. So what's your take on the prospect of global opening, and what will it be like, and what it should be like? So I will talk about the report released last year concerning opening up. So there was a 470 characters quote. So after I look into those texts, I think it proposes the 5 priority missions of China's opening up. I think you should all know about it or discuss about it. So it is mentioned in the report that China has entered an era of dual circulation, with the internal circulation playing a major role. So at this stage, we must form rules and regulations and standards, institutions. We need to form an uniformed ground for internal circulation and external circulation, so that our export and our import, so that we can have the same standard. Because after decades of opening up, we have a lot of rules and stimulus for export, but for our internal consumption, it is general. So for different products, we need to form the same regulation, same standard. So in the 14th five-year plan of the State Council, I also quote from the document that quote is also contained in the report. So as you can see, that this system is what we need. So if we do not use opening up to make this system work, it's going to be bad for economy. And another thing mentioned is that we need to be a strong nation in trade, and the priority is not really about trading goods, but in trading services and trading digital products. So China has been the #1 nation in trading goods for 1 decade or so, but it does not equal to a strong nation status. So we need to be strong in trading digital services and services. And so we are actually not strong in those regards, and those are quite problematic. So when we export 150 billion RMB in trading services, those are basically about lending and other receptions at tourist attractions and labor export, etc. And we have a 500 billion US dollars in trade in services import. Those are productive ones. For the high value ones, including the labor intensive, talent intensive, capital intensive services. And when we do those import, 90% of those import are actually done by foreign businesses. Chinese trade-based importers rarely do this kind of import in production factors. So those are not actually carried out by the Chinese entities. That's the reason why the central government has been paying a lot of attention to trading services. So that's the reason why in 2021, 2023, in September, for 4 years in a row, the central government has been holding conferences concerning trade in services. And it is stressed that that conference is going to be held every year. So we have the trading services a lot of such activities. So actually, it is meant to mend the shortcomings in our opening up. So the third thing is we need to continue to push the Belt and Road to facilitate the high-level opening up of the coastal regions, including middle and western part of China. So when we talk about the Belt and Road, we always think of going out to work together with the other countries to build a world economy that's mutually beneficial. But a bigger role of the Belt and Road Initiative is to help China to develop in a balanced way.
And actually, in terms of our borders, actually 2/3 of them are actually on the land, and 1/3 of them are actually coastal borders. So that is why we also need to focus on collaborations, and also not only about the development of the coastal areas, but also about our inland. That is why we now currently have this huge income gap between China's east and west. Belt and Road Initiative is exactly a platform that we can do that. So with this 14 trillion trade volume potentially, so even with, for instance, the 2 trillion US dollars trade potentially between China and the US, and also another 2 trillion US dollars between China and other BRI countries. As an example, a lot of ASEAN countries can further collaborate with China through railways and also roads via Yunnan provinces, and also we have the China-Europe Railway and all sorts of infrastructure in the BRI. And the second function of BRI, which is even more significant, is to achieve a balanced development among different regions here in China. And also, in the report of the 20th CPC Congress, it's mentioned that we need to further build a free trade network, so that we will further facilitate the improvement of business environment across China. So that is why we need to have this kind of implementation of our FTAs, not only in the existing FTAs, but also to broaden it to other areas in China. So now we have, for instance, zero tariff in some of the FTAs. It's not only about the 21 FTAs, but also about the improvement of the rule of law in every aspect. Fifth, we need to promote the internationalization of RMB. Over the past 3 decades, we have been talking about this topic and the policy has been quite prudent. But now, in the latest 20th CPC report, the word prudent development has become orderly development. So this change of wording also shows how China has a change of policy. And now, for instance, like the currency reserve and monetary reserve has remained at a 2% level, which hasn't changed for over the past 2 decades. Should we still maintain this 2% of RMB's currency reserve in terms of our global trade? This is something we need to change. So, for instance, we have 3 types of different, I would say, categories. First is for U.S. strong countries, countries strong in terms of foreign trade. Their foreign currency actually accounts for at least 58% of their GDP. And also we have Japan. In 1975, Japan's GDP was 15% of the global GDP, and then the currency of Japanese yen accounted for 13% of the global currency. So China needs to follow similar level, actually direction, I would say. We're not saying that we will replace actually US, but at least narrow the gap between us and European countries, Japan, and the US. So we need to achieve the same level of currency reserve of RMB as the same level of our percentage of GDP out of the global GDP. So that's all from me. So I think those 5 points from the CPC 20th Congress report are really important. Thank you very much, Mr. Huang, for your detailed interpretation of the report of the CPC 20th Congress. So, Mr. Huang mentioned trade in services. Now, Madam Jiang, what do you think we should do to catch up in this regard? I think in the future, trade in services in China is something that we need to improve. So, for instance, the percentage of trading services out of the total volume of trade is actually below the world average and also lower than the major trader in goods. So that's an area where we have huge potential for further growth. And what I really want to emphasize is actually trading services can be closely aligned with digital technology or digitalization. So for instance, we have all sorts of highly developed digital technologies that can be further leveraged to help us to promote the development of trading services. And then, for instance, global trading services, according to the latest data, accounting for nearly 60% of the global trade. And I believe this trend will continue to grow. And you can see that out of the entire global trade, that trade in services will continue to grow more rapidly than trade in goods. And also, services and value-added services especially will outgrow that of the growth rate of manufacturing. And also, in terms of the supply chain, we also can see that there are a lot of extensions of trading services. For instance, now we heard from the speakers from the MSD and then also other speakers in terms of the new changes in the world. So with digital platforms and those new technologies, that we have all sorts of major breakthroughs in R&D. And now global collaboration has improved greatly. So now China has participated in all sorts of technology collaborations. For instance, the recent collaboration in terms of developing international observatory alongside with other 15 countries. Altogether, there are 16 countries in that international project, and everything has been developing quite rapidly. And also, we have the large language model in AI, and also the development of software. And it's an open source platform, an open source world for us to even collaborate further. And then we always talk about like world-class development, and also we talk about the first-tier talents that would do R&D, right? So R&D is an area where we have the really good ways of allocation of resources, and also for education, R&D, cultural development. Those are areas that can be better developed. And it's not only about the volume, but also about the division of labor, and all the way from R&D to manufacturing to service, trading services, etc. Everything has been rapidly developing, and we need to observe those changes. So based on technology, we need to identify the internal trends. In terms of policy, we can see that government actually have their own take in terms of their attitude toward trading goods and trade in services. Of course, there are common interests, but they also have their respective positions. U.S. has been not as competitive as China in terms of many new technologies, which is why they say that globalization brings a lot of deficiency, especially in terms of import and export in U.S., and that's why many Americans are against globalization. But we need to understand that here, China, we actually greatly benefited from globalization, and our attitude has been comprehensive or relatively positive. But then also, there have been a lot of prejudice held against China. But in terms of our globalization, many countries are also holding this neutral attitudes, neutral views. And also for our different industries, be it infrastructure or new digital technologies, we're ranking top in the world. And we would say that those trade in digital services and trade in services, I am really optimistic and confident about the future. For instance, in terms of the regulations framework and such as DIPA, that we are making contributions to the process. So in a word, we will definitely develop rapidly in trading services, especially trade in digital services. We're just rapidly developing around the globe, and China is going to be highly competitive. So as we can hear from Madam Jiang, that there would be a lot of advantages for us to further develop digital technology. And my next question is for Mr. Long Guoqiang. What exactly is your view for the future of globalization? Or what do you think would be the countries that benefit most from globalization? So Actually, Madam Jiang said that I should save something for later, that save the good stuff for later discussions. And I would say the globalization is a double-edged sword. And there are a lot of countries from the south. It's not like they don't open up. It's actually they suffer a lot before they enjoy the benefits. But actually China is a strong participant, contributor, and also a beneficiary from the process of globalization. We are kind of like a winner in this competition or in this process of globalization, and we're trying to say that we need to have an accurate analysis of the future of globalization, and we need to identify the opportunities and challenges in this process and adjust our strategies accordingly, and also seize the opportunities and respond to these challenges. Currently, the economic globalization is in the phase of readjustment. There are opportunities and challenges, but then also complexities and uncertainties, which are also increasing. And then the combination of challenges and opportunities are changing. So in this new context, it's really important for us to continue to open up, but it's not follow the old path, the traditional path, but to pursue high-level opening up, as emphasized by President Xi. So we need to have an integrated plan, and we need to also take security into consideration, and also promote like the circulation of dual elements, and also the integration of both domestic and international markets, and develop a new landscape of development. Also, it's important to cultivate new competitive advantages. For instance, to develop trade in goods, trading services, and also build us into a strong country in trade. And it's also very important to open up in terms of our rule of law and market-based development, and also internationalization, and improve business environment. And also, we need to pursue high-level opening up, to have in-depth structural reform. And when it comes to opening up, it's very important to have high-quality construction of BRI projects, and also to contribute to the global governance reform. So it's quite a comprehensive and systematic arrangement that is up to the time, and with those arrangements, as long as we can put it into practice, that we can survive in this world of complexities and uncertainties. But of course, we need to implement the strategies mentioned in the report of the 20th Party Congress. So we do a lot of policy research, right? So we need to investigate those policies in detail, and also put those strategies into practice.
Thank you, Mr. Long Guoxiang, for your wonderful analysis. So for Professor Zhang Yan, you just talked about your pessimistic analysis. I think each and every one of us is waiting for your positive view and a comprehensive analysis, so how we can paint the future for globalization. So I think look on the bright side, to advance comprehensive globalization, we have been an active participant, but still the Western world has been playing a very important role. So we hope that the Global South can better participate. So personally, I have this view that I think for the next step, if the globalization will continue, and if we can just reverse this deglobalization trend, depends totally on if China will be able to open up more, because currently in the multilateral trade system we're in today, we are stressing reciprocal opening. So for the United States, when they got strong through this kind of reciprocal opening or unilateral opening, so my conclusion is unilateral, because the UK is the first country to industrialize, so they have a lot of conditional opening. So the US has been stressing this bilateral opening, but in all the areas they need, they use a unilateral opening up, including talents, education, the three systems. These are all unilateral opening up. Their corporate system, financial system, these are the most open towards the rest of the world. So if the US did not adopt this model of unilateral opening up, then they wouldn't be able to attract so many good talents and quality technologies to the US. So I think for a long time, we have, I think it's a lie. Bilateral opening up, it is a lie. So when it is basically a developed country to force a less developed countries to do this. So developed countries, what they need actually, they use unilateral opening up. Because in the past few days, we had a lot of forums, including the Belt and Road 10 years anniversary. 110 countries came, and in the Shanghai Forum about security, and then most people are talking about development and about the regional development, trade. It's quite interesting. So today, more countries come. So I think after some communication, I think it's not just about support to China, but also hope for China. The hope China can be more open up. So how will China do that? I think there are 5 things we can do. For the first thing, I think the China-European investment, trade investment, because of some political reasons, the trade agreement was derailed. I think it's impossible for us to wait until we can have a reciprocal agreement. So maybe we can just make it work first. In many respects, actually, we can start already. And we have applied for joining of DIPA and CPTPP. I think we need to accelerate the application process. So even when we need to spend a lot of time to do it, we need to do it. The reason why we need to join is because we need to make it work. The third thing is that I think very much we agree with some of the opinions I heard. We have fragmentation. In East Asia, it is also fragmented. So you look at our relationship with the ASEAN countries, we have 10+3, 10+1, the Mekong River countries and RCEP. So I think with the ASEAN countries, we need to talk about the version 3.0. I don't think it's even enough. So can we consolidate these roles and put forward a China-ASEAN shared market, just like the European Union? I think that's something we can do. Of course, conditionally. And our conditions will be very specific. And the other countries are quite interested because in order to become a unified big market, it's quite difficult. So for us, it's also difficult. So we both need to external forces to facilitate the formation of a unified market. And the third thing, and fourth thing is that I think we should allow our businesses, and not just to allow, but also to encourage them to extend the industrial chain and other chains to the ASEAN countries. So currently, a lot of local governments are protecting our businesses. They want the whole industrial chain to be in their own country. So I think the full industrial chain is not secure. So as long as we put the supply chain there, for example, BYD, if they produce 20,000 components, I think they should put a few thousand in other countries, and maybe in Latin America, because this is a win-win economy. A full industrial chain means that you're not related to the other countries. Of course, you create revenues. You need to create revenues and employment for the local government, so as to be accepted. So it's something we should really encourage. And the last point I'd like to make is that because currently the U.S. has been choking us, so we are finding alternative ways to produce certain products. So for import alternatives, when the United States does that, we need to find alternatives. I think we do not need to do a lot of alternatives because after some research, for example, for the Asian countries, the export-oriented the export-oriented economy became developed countries, and the countries who were resorting alternative actually did not have opportunity to grow rich. Because now we have the opportunities, but actually we need to do a lot of things to find the import alternatives. So we need to help our own. We are helping with decoupling. So for the alternative, we need to be cautious and do not try too hard to replace the products. So it's just like the reform and opening up. We need to be export-oriented. So talking about a unilateral opening up, a lot of people get quite tense. So actually, if you look back, so actually, we actually grew from unilateral opening up in the 1970s. We didn't have capitals. We invited in capitals. So that was unilateral opening up. And in the 1990s, in order to join WTO, when Mr. Chen was responsible for those work, we actively changed and revised over 10,000 laws and regulations. That was also unilateral opening up. And the conference we are having today is also unilateral opening up. So my summary is that the unilateral opening up countries are actually much faster in their development than the countries who insist on bilateral opening up. That's what we must see. Okay, thank you, Mr. Zheng, for your very important historical views, and also what kind of opening up policies should China adopt currently. Thank you. So due to time constraint, so for the last round, I'd like to invite each and every one of you to use one sentence to express your expectations and wishes for the future's opening up. So Mr. Wang, so I think opening up will certainly be successful for China. So please give him a round of applause to support his idea. And since this is a very big question, so I think the trend of opening up is unstoppable. It is a global agenda driven by many factors. Despite the ups and downs, it's for sure going to continue. So to actively understand the new changes in the international situation and constantly improve our level of opening up. And Mr. Zhou Nian, so I think in the past 30 years, we actually have been participant of globalization. So in the future 3 decades, we are going to be the leader of globalization. Thank you. I'd like to thank you all for your speech, and I'd like to thank the representatives, dear friends and leaders for coming here. So that's the end of our report launch and symposium. I'd like to thank you for being here and